Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Namaskar. This is Engineer Suraj Singh speaking from Bharat, India on this date, November 28, 2021, Sunday, रविवार. मैं सूरज सिंह सिविल इंजीनियर भारत इंडिया से बोल रहा हूँ. आज 28 नवंबर 2021 रविवार का दिन, आपके रेस्ट का दिन. आप सोइए आराम से. मैं आपके लिए मैसेज छोड़ रहा हूँ, बात कर रहा हूँ. क्वालिटी के बारे में, सेफ्टी के बारे में. आई एम जस्ट गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट दिस टाइटल दैट सिविल फील्ड इंजीनियरिंग इन हिंदी एंड इंग्लिश बोथ लाइफ इंजीनियर्स क्वालिटी एंड एक्सेसल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स design construction methods disputes organizations communications coordinations why always be behind quality which is a question mark. हमेशा हम क्यों ऐसी बात करते हैं? ये बहुत बड़ा इशू आपके लिए और आपको समझना चाहिए. यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस वेरी मच रिक्वायरमेंट. These certificates have got meaning if you do that. Otherwise, these certificates have got no meaning. Otherwise, no, if you don't do that. You have to be very understandable about this issue. It's not simple that we have to achieve quality. Means we have to achieve. If you can't achieve, means we don't do our job. If we achieve that, that's fine. It should be achieved, and there's no way that we can go out of that. This is my board, my, you can say, entry board, sign board, or name board, whatever you call it. And I have got this conventional email with identification Suraj, and this is underscore engineer at yahoo.co.uk, and I am resident of 43021B Faridabad, Delhi, India. And you can see Institution of Engineers logo, and this is my photo. And here what you can see, Chartered Engineer India, Chartered Abhinta Bharat, International Professional Engineer India, अंतर्राष्ट्रीय प्रोफेशनल अभियंता भारत सिविल इंजीनियरिंग. And here is another certification that is related to statute, or you can say charter of IEI, and it is professional engineer certification as usually I depict, and this is fellow membership. I close it now because it has served its purpose and it is quality. गुणवत्ता, क्वालिटी कंस्ट्रक्शन में, निर्माण में, जीवन में, सेवाओं में, हर कार्य में, शिक्षा में, समाज में, व्यक्ति में उतनी ही आवश्यक है जितना सांसों में, हर काम में आवश्यक है जितना सांसों में. गुणवत्ता हर काम में आवश्यक. सुरक्षा बिना सब काम बेकार व्यर्थ. Quality, 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 method statement, quality. We cannot forget quality, we cannot run out of quality. Quality means engineering, and engineering means quality. Sometimes we have to speak like this: quality related to reliability, and quality and analysis, quality and synthesis, quality and synthesis and search, thinking, concentration, thinking and concentration, which is unit of work. Thinking, concentration, certain powers to achieve everything. Thinking based on contemplation, thinking based on contemplation must be achieved. Thinking based on contemplation, contemplation is the standard, it is something which helps. And design and prosecution works application be affected in engineering. We were trying to operations last time when talking about white book. About this book white, which is for supervising people, supervision that is talking about, and we are starting with an operation. What is operation? How we can define that? How we can understand? We can say whole project, supervision, operation, and its own operations are very important work. We have to understand that how operation works, what's the sole purpose behind that. It's very important because supervision itself is very important. It's only construction that requires supervision. Supervision is also required in designs. Supervision is also required in self work. Supervision means higher higher angle of thinking, higher angle of viewing. You can say when you supervise something and you think of something, you view something of different angle, a person who does that job directly may not be able to think that way, because the interest of person doing job is that job should be done, activity should be done very expeditiously, efficiently. At the same time, when you think of only progress, only output, maybe one misses quality percentage. We have to achieve 100% quality of specification. maybe more. But that can be done only when we have a will. We have a will to do that, to have that. इच्छा शक्ति का होना, इच्छा शक्ति का होना उतना ही आवश्यक है जितना हमें रोटी खाने की ज़रूरत। इच्छा शक्ति होगी तो क्वालिटी भी होगी, गुणवत्ता भी होगी और प्रोडक्ट के आउटपुट भी होंगे। और अगर इच्छा शक्ति नहीं होगी तो इसमें से हमें कुछ नहीं होगा, हमारा क्वालिटी या गुणवत्ता का कोई मतलब नहीं होगा और हम काम में चिंता नहीं करेंगे, बस जल्दी जल्दी कर दो, काम को ख़त्म करो। ऐसा क्वालिटी में नहीं हो सकता। काम की एक स्पीड होती है, क्वालिटी अगर लेनी है तो, गुणवत्ता प्राप्त करनी है तो। नहीं तो झूठा है कहना कि क्वालिटी से काम कर रहे हैं हम, गुणवत्ता हम नहीं पा रहे और कह रहे हैं कि हम गुणवत्ता पा रहे हैं। हम इस बात का दावा करते हैं कि हमने क्वालिटी का काम किया, लेकिन जब प्रोडक्ट सामने आया तो देखा कि क्वालिटी है ही नहीं, तब क्या करेंगे? ऐसा है कि एक तो झूठ पर रहेंगे कि हमारा ये जो आइटम है, ये जो काम है बहुत अच्छा है, झूठ बोलते रहेंगे हमेशा। और जो दूसरे इस बात को नहीं समझते वो भी समझे कि हाँ ये कह रहे हैं तो ठीक ही होगा। लेकिन जब वही लोग उसको प्रयोग में लाएंगे तो कहेंगे ये चीज़ अच्छी नहीं है। लेकिन जब बात बड़े चीज़ों की आती है, भवन निर्माण है या बड़ी बड़ी फाउंडेशंस हैं, तो एक सामान्य व्यक्ति को इसकी क्वालिटी के बारे में ज्ञान नहीं है। इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट that when we talk of small items, people can realize whether it has quality or it has no quality or it has part quality in its performance, because they use it instantly, they use it immediately, and they know. But as far as civil engineering products are concerned, like buildings, like foundations, or like others, where immediately it's not possible to know facts about quality, because bad quality immediately doesn't result. Its adversity, it results after a long time of use, when you find distressing situation in structural components of whatever structure you do. Supervision, when we say, this means that we have to supervise activities in the interest of work, and there is always a sequence of activities, and in this sequence every activity has its own system of doing it, and that system cannot be changed. Yes, there can be some variations, there can be some time organizational management, and how to do that work we can decide by our experience and by nature of activity. When I say activity means, for example, concrete pouring activity, concrete mixing activity, concrete transport activity, concrete curing activity, concrete testing activity. Likewise, there are many sub-activities in each activity, and generally people may call it task, but we don't call it task, we call it activity or operation. Or you may say event, though event is not a professional word in this case. Generally activity is used. Activity is counted in every work. For example, brickwork. There are so many activities in that. Manufacturing of brick, though it's not done on site, but It's production item. Activity to know what is quality of that brick. There are so many parameters which can be used. Then transportation of brick, whether water is required on that, testing on that, how to stack it, and then how to place it. And after that, bond formation during placement, and of course curing. Same way, during working of brick itself, how to leave it after working. Should joint be racked or not racked? Question arises, and which is a must, because another layer shall be formed on that, and that layer is called plastering or rendering. People just do not think of that, and they leave joints flush with brick surface, which is not correct. So that you can say there are certain sub activities. So activity of brick was that we have done brick wall and that's it. We do not think of plastering on that, how to do bonding on that, and that bonding can be done only we have to immediately after work is done, we have to take out unset mortar from joints, but we do not do that. Same way it is done on block work also. The block surface is more rough than bricks. These days bricks are also not quality bricks. What I say, this is example I am giving you. I am not giving it for all activities, only for major activities. Means whatever can be done easily, we do not care for that. You can say blocks, for example, concrete hollow blocks. This is very important item. It is concrete, it's not brick, it's not clay, and it is in relation to structure, you can say compatible material. But we have to understand how it should be done. You see, block requires curing, and without curing it can't be placed, and we have to handle it accordingly. Means when we transport blocks from factory, it doesn't have a required period for its strength. It gains strength. It's still part strength. It has still part strength, but we do. So what results? Some blocks break during transport itself, and people don't handle them properly. We have to analyze all these activities during our supervision. We have to see what work is done on site should be according to requirement, should be according to what should be done. That is very important point, and it should be for all activities. As we say, all operations involved on supervising projects related to RCC buildings amount to numerous activities varying in nature, from structural to non-structural finishing, clad finishing, you can say cladding, closure, opening, and many others. All such activities require varying procedures on same locations, which are based on varying national and international codes and practice as well as manufacturer's instruction. Contractors should be very effective in understanding, selecting, and proposing all requirements related to each activity operation. And on top of that, it is responsibility of supervising person to ensure that whatever should be done according to system, according to specification, according to standards, must be done without any lapse. And that is where we say a close supervision or a close surveillance is necessary, is essential for activities. Whether these items come to conform to requirements. क्यों बैठ गई? हाँ? अच्छा. Whether these items conform to requirements or do not conform to requirements, that is a question mark. We have to realize this fact. We have to very much realize this fact, how to handle it, how to hold it. And that's where I say a combination of supervising team and prosecution team. When I say prosecution team, this means construction team. And when I say supervising team, this means I say it may be consulting team or it may be resident engineers team. Both have to work in unison. So it is responsibility of contractor who has every support to do correct job. It's also responsibility of supervising engineers to make sure that job is done according to requirements. And that is where I say, whatever we can argue both ways, ultimate aim should be that work should not suffer, quality should not suffer, work should be done with good quality or at least in conformance to quality requirement. And safety is of course a big question, big you can say attainment if you get it. So when I say white contract, it is supervising one, and we are talking of how to achieve it. We know experienced people know it, but it's not question of conflict, it's no question of disagreement. The question is of achieving target, achieving goal, and that is required everywhere. Yes, that this is an agreement, general indicative format of an agreement that should be done or it can be done by and between both parties, and that is employer and employer as a client, and your second party, that is an engineer, a supervising team. In this agreement, In this agreement, words and expressions shall have same meanings as are respectively assigned to them in conditions of client's consultant model services. Agreement hereinafter refer to following documents shall be deemed to form and be read and construed as part of agreement, namely letter of acceptance, conditions of client consultant model services, agreement, general conditions and particular conditions. Then appendices is, for example, scope of services, then personal equipment, facilities and services of others to be provided by client, remuneration and payment. In consideration of payments to be made by client to consultant is thereafter mentioned, consultant hereby agrees with client to perform services in conformity with provisions of agreement. Client hereby agrees to pay consultant in consideration of performance of services such amounts as may become payable under provisions of agreement at times and in manner prescribed by agreement. Conditions of client consultant model service agreement, general conditions, definitions, interpretations only for information. We can see there are some expressions. Following words and expressions shall have same meanings they assigned to them except where context otherwise requires. Project means project named in particular conditions for which works are to be provided. Services means services to be performed by consultant in accordance with agreement and comprise normal services, additional services and exceptional services. Works means permanent works to be executed, including goods and equipment to be supplied to client for achievement of project. Client means party named in agreement who employs consultant and legal successors to client and permitted assignees. Consultant means party named in agreement who is employed as an independent professional firm by client to perform services and legal successors to consultant and permitted assignees. Party and parties means client and consultant, and third party means some other person or entity as context requires. Agreement means conditions comprising conditions of client consultant model services agreement, general conditions and particular conditions, together with Appendix A, scope of services, Appendix B, personal equipment, facilities and services of others to be provided by client. Appendix C, remuneration and payment, letter of acceptance and formal agreement if completed or otherwise as specified in particular condition. Day means period between any one midnight and next. Month means period of 1 month according to Gregorian calendar, commencing with whatever day of month. Local currency means currency of country where project is located, and foreign currency means other currency. Agreed compensation means additional sums as defined in particular conditions which are payable under agreement. Headings in agreement shall not be used in its interpretation. A singular includes plural and masculine includes feminine, and vice versa, where context requires. If there is a conflict between provisions of agreement and laws to be written chronologically, shall prevail, unless otherwise specified in particular condition. Consultant. Consultant shall perform services relating to project. The scope of services is stated in Appendix A. Normal services are those described as such in Appendix A. Additional services are those described as such in Appendix A, or which by written agreement of parties are otherwise additional to normal services. Exceptional services are those which are not normal or additional services, but which are necessarily performed by consultant in accordance with clause 28. We'll see that one. Consultant shall exercise reasonable skill and diligence in performance of its duties, obligations under agreement. Where services include exercise of powers or performance of duties authorized or required by terms of contract between the client and whatever third party, consultant shall act in accordance with contract, provided that details of such powers and duties are acceptable to it, where they are not described in Appendix A. If authorized to certify, decide, or exercise discretion, do so fairly between client and third party, not as an arbitrator, but as an independent professional acts by his skill and judgment. If so authorized, vary obligations of whatever third party, subject to obtaining prior approval of client to whatever variation which can have an important effect on cost or quality or time, except in whatever emergency, when consultant shall inform client as soon as practicable. Whatever supplied by or paid for by client for use of consultant shall be property of client, and where practicable shall be so marked. When services are completed or terminated, consultant shall furnish inventories to client what has not been consumed in performance of services, and shall deliver it as directed by client. Such delivery shall be regarded as an additional services. Client shall so as not to delay services, and within a reasonable time give to consultant free of cost all information in its power to obtain, which may pertain to services. On all matters properly referred to it in writing by consultant, client shall give its decision in writing so as not to delay services and within a reasonable time. In country of project and in respect of consultant, its personnel or dependents, as case may be, client shall do all in its power to assist in provision of documents necessary for entry, residence work and exit, providing unobstructed access wherever is required for services. Import, export and customs clearance of personal effects and of goods required for services, their repatriation in emergencies, provision of authorities necessary to permit import of foreign currency by consultant for services and by its personnel for their personal use, and to permit export of money earned in performance of services, providing access to other organizations for collection of information which is to be obtained by consultant. Client shall make available free of cost to consultant for purpose of services, equipment and facilities described in Appendix B. In consultation with consultant, client shall at its own cost arrange for selection and provision of personnel in its employment to consultant in accordance with Appendix B. In connection with services, such personnel shall take instructions only from consultant. Client shall at its cost arrange for the provision of services from others as described in Appendix B. Consultant shall cooperate with suppliers of such services but shall not be responsible for them or their performance. Personnel who are sent by consultant to work in country of project shall have been physically examined and found fit for their assignments and their qualifications be acceptable to client. Personnel be supplied by client in accordance with clause 11 be acceptable to consultant. If client cannot supply client's personal or services of others for which it is responsible and is agreed to be necessary for satisfactory performance of services. Consultant shall arrange for its supply as an additional service. For administration of agreement, each party shall designate an official or individual to be representative. If required by client, consultant shall designate an individual to liaise with client's representative in country of project. If it is necessary to replace whoever person, party responsible for appointment shall immediately arrange for replacement by a person of comparable competence. Cost of such replacement shall be borne by party responsible for appointment, except that if replacement is requested by other party. Such request shall be in writing, stating reasons for it, and party making request shall bear cost of replacement unless misconduct or inability to perform satisfactorily is established as reason. Well, it is just for reference that I tried to show you how it works and what we have to see. Explanation we shall give later on. These are just for preliminary submission that we have to understand what type of agreement between client and service provider or engineer can be drawn. It's only indication of what scope of work we have to think of and what sort of agreement can be drawn. It's only you can say guide. But important point is duty. Ultimately, duty of client is not very important here. Certain decision makings are important. Whatever decisions of policy or decisions about something else are required to be taken with support of course, consultant or engineer that client or employer can rely upon, and wherever involvement of client or employer is concerned in connection with statutes or regulations, whatever expenses are done and whatever procedure is to be applied, is to be adopted, client has to undergo that. Actually, job of engineer or consultant here is to design, or it's only for supervision to supervise. If it's both, it should be both. Important point is whoever designs, that is different, that's exclusively different. Designer is designer. But now when work is executed, it is last stage of procedure. And we call it construction, for which supervision is required and for which quality is a question mark. We have been discussing about performance evaluation. These contract which I tried to show to you, white book and supervising structural AnnexSL, both are of course linked, and we are discussing details that supervising structure in its terms of format in structure AnnexSL, what can be requirements. When we talk of performance evaluation, that is clause 9. परफॉर्मेंस एवल्यूशन इज हमने जो काम किया है उसको समझें, कितना किया है, कैसा किया है, जितना ज़रूरत था उतना किया है या उससे कम किया है, या हमने प्रोफेशनली ठीक नहीं किया है. दिस पॉइंट्स engineer has to or supervisor has to self study, because team of supervising personnel is always very highly qualified and you can say highly academically educated. These people can push job with speed if they like, and if they like to hold job momentarily, or they can waste time also. We have to be very careful that supervising team should have maturity, should have academical knowledge, and should have practical aspect inbuilt. Pure theory cannot be applied, and pure practice is also not admissible. Tolerances exist, definitions exist, limits exist. We cannot write off that, but we cannot also write off requirement of quality and safety. We cannot write off that. If we write off requirement, then there is no justification that supervising team should be available. And we should not worry about supervising team, and we should rely on integrity of contractor. But more than integrity of contractors, or more than reliability of supervising team, is question of long life or durability of whatever work is done. It is different culture. Contracting and supervisor, both are different. Both are professionals, and professional of repute as well as professional of knowledge. If we think that we can do without them, I think that is the exception. If we can do without them, I would like to appreciate that decision. If someone says I don't need contractors, I can do myself. I think I've not seen such people. I've not seen such people in my experience that who can risk responsibility. I've not seen any such instant, and I don't think that it's going to happen. It won't happen because nobody wants to be aggressive and nobody wants to risk. But even then, performance is required. When we say performance, it's performance of supervision. If there is good work, if there is appreciable work done by contractors, certainly cooperation, input by supervising team is justified, because supervising team does its job, and if it does not do its job, we cannot find that level of quality element in activities. Lot of work is done during designs, work of architect, work of structural designer, work of services engineers, their interactions, work of drawing specifications, which is very difficult, time consuming, and you can say very much technical activity, which should be applied correctly, and before application must be thoroughly understood. And we have to understand that whatever specifications are given or available for project, those are not done by ordinary people. Those are drawn by very experienced people, if these are realistic and not just copy paste. Those specifications tell us standards, and then we have to add to those specifications another working specification, which we call detailed method for activity. Whatever activity we do or we supervise, that is based on some a different kind of executive agreement, or you can say implementation agreement, or carrying out action that can be agreed before doing whatever work. Means what should be done for this work, irrespective of what is general specification. Both parties, I mean to say, not exactly contractual parties, but working partners. When I say party, means it's contractual, it's not contractual. You may say relation between supervising personnel and contracting personnel are not contractual, they are bi-contractual, because contractor and supervising team have different types of contract with employer. They are not directly connected, they are connected in a triangular organization where one contract exists between employer and contractor, and another contract exists between employer and supervising team. So you may say it is direct, not direct responsibility. Both work towards providing service of employer for this project. That's no difference, but responsibilities come by. Supervisor has to make sure that whatever work is done, it should be done according to compliance of whatever included conditions on contract. And same way, contractor has to do its job according to whatever is required by contract details. That contract is between employer and contractor. So we can say construction contract and supervision contract, or you can say red book and white book move together, of course on different paths, but goal is same. destiny is same. If both move together safely, seriously, there is no way that quality cannot be achieved. It's really very surprising when you say this. When we say improvement, which is always last clause in this form, improvement has no limit, we know. Improvement is always continuous. Just we say plan, do, check and act. Improvement is just act based on whatever we have achieved. It's therefore very significant to say that responsibility of contractor towards owner or employer and responsibility of supervising team or engineer. Engineer has the option, has a privilege that statutory it has independent authority. Independent authority means as far as technical actions are conducted, are done, and designs are done, or you can say support to employer is done, which can become support to contractor also at one time. So that is different kind of, you can say, requirements, and we have to use this in engineering world. You can say supervisor is engineering world person and contractor is construction world person. But both work for society and both work for contracts, and it's part of business. Contract is a part of business which defines something, and dispute should be avoided. To be very frank, job of consultant is also very time consuming and voluminous because everything is to be checked. Same way, job of contract is also very difficult and time consuming, but it is required. Designs are not same and sections are not same, details are not same, scope is not same on various projects. And of course, in construction world, we cannot sit today, we start tomorrow, finish. It takes months, years together to do some job. You cannot say today I get some job and tomorrow I finish it. It's not bus journey or train journey or flight journey. It is project journey which cannot be seen, but when it moves it can be seen. Movement is required. Walk of contract is required. And not only walk thoroughly. Step by step, point by point, section by section, article by article. You have to run details, run contract. That's very important point, and we cannot escape that. We cannot escape that. And we say, as stated earlier, that technologies keep on changing, as well as business environment, which makes it incumbent upon organization to keep pace with market so as to be at required standard mark. And in improvement, non-conformity is a question mark, and you can say it is a kind of corrective action that is required on improvement, and it is not instant improvement but continuous improvement, or you can say meeting requirement, continuous monitoring, evaluation and improvements. These all form a series, and that is very important to get into. May say this requires review of non-conformities, resorting to corrective actions, for charting out corrective actions. Such making and evolving keeps system frequently updated, and all involved personnel continue to learn and update. All leaders require share improvement responsibilities all times at currently running projects and adopt as lessons learned on future projects as part of historical reference. There are some documents that are necessarily involved to support quality system declaration, and these are, we can say, supervising service contract, main contract, subcontracts, contractors, organization chart, supervising management organization chart, supervising management quality policy, contract scope, contract objectives, description, contractors quality policy, contractors project site plan, contractors safety plan, contract quality plan, organizational targets, organizational commitment policy, process descriptions, job descriptions of each position, all statutory references, all codal references if involved, procedural statement, all other required documents depending on operations. Here, reference is given to relate consultant's job. When we say supervising service contract, as we discussed before about that contract, which is this one, in which we studied obligations, obligation of client, personal liability service. We'll discuss it later on. It was only for reference purpose I put in today's short talk. Then we can say main contract. Main contract has a relation to consultant to an extent contract administration is related to his concern. Contract can be administered by supervising personnel, by key personnel, by resident engineer, by engineer, on behalf of owner, on behalf of employer. So main contract, that is red book based or silver book based, that contract has to be administered, and this is job of non-party on construction contract, and that is included party in working conditions, say on behalf of employer on red book, red contract, it is engineer that works. Here you may say employer empowers engineers for this work, and that is professional empowerment. It's not, you can say, specific task, because for such works qualification is required, standard CVs are required, role is defined, which employer may not be able to do itself. So that is main contract, and it functionally relates to engineer or supervising team. And same way we can say contractors organization chart. In organization chart, everybody is reflected, or you can say everybody in organization management is included, and also we have consultant does it and includes it. Supervising, organization, management, organization chart, and whatever else, quality policy. When we decide team of supervision, this team must be very competent to meet requirement, or we can say compatibility of works to go, and persons who are well organized they act upon. Thus these documents must be very clear, and every resident engineer must have gone through all such documents before doing anything on site. Similarly, supervising organization management quality policy. What we think of, what should be quality policy of supervising team? We can think of that. We can think in a way that first of all, supervisory team is support, is original support to employer, and it's also implied support to contractor. Implied in the sense that contractor has got no relation to consultant in contextual position, but conventionally you cannot do without such requirement. Every construction requirement, whatever construction is done according to contract, that is taken care of, and that is supervision quality. That what level of quality is achieved on activities, on products, or on construction elements. So it's easy to say supervise, but it's also very difficult to correctly supervise. Supervision is not just standing or walking and seeing things are going on, activities are going on. It's a way to say what activity should be done where. Every consultant must have a plan. In beginning itself, later on it has to depend on the contractor's given plan. But exclusively you cannot depend on what contractor says, because there are so many items that contractor may miss. So we can say, when we say organization chart, or we say plans, or we can say whatever, that is very much original document which can be produced or prepared only by scrutiny of contract. Scrutiny means we have to understand what contents of this contract are, and also that are these okay, are they justified, are this logical. Quality policy is very important for supervising personnel too, as it's extremely important for contracting personnel, because we have to help others to help ourselves. Every consultant helps customer, has to help customers to a practical extent possible, because some payment is made to consultant for fee, and that should be justified as well as responded, and work be done qualitatively. If contractor does not work qualitatively, this means there is some flaw in design, or there is some inaction by members of the inaction. Is very important, and inaction should be suppressed. It should be crushed. If inaction continues, it comes in way of progress as well as quality. If there is no progress, there will be no quality. Purpose of quality system is not to stop job, not to stop activities. It's always different. Its purpose is to help work be better and better than before. That should be requirement. If it is reality, it's not fake. You may seem fake for okay, quality is complied with but doesn't comply. In fact, it doesn't comply, and we make fake statements. We have to understand contract scope before attempting all other documents and all current documents. We have to understand thoroughly what is scope and how much work we have to do or supervise in this requirement. We define requirement ourselves on behalf of employer and on behalf of people. But that requirement is not final. Then you can say scope is final. The scope is very clear, and scope means it cannot be varied without agreement by and between both parties. So to supervise everything very well, analysis of whole project should be conducted by consultants. It may not be declared, but it's a kind of secrecy that is known to employer. What are good points or bad points? If engineer things must be shared with employer, that if we do this way, this can happen, or if we do that way, this can happen. This should be known to employer. And employer's duty then, based on recommendations of engineer, what actions would be charted out. Contract objective description, that is a must in whatever format. All contents of contract should be crystal clear for purpose of planning, for purpose of the making plans for future handling of project. That can be done only by available information. What is objective of contract? That must be defined within contract, and after that brief BOQ, detailed provision must be made so that we can very well understand how difficult is our life. Objective description is very important. Then we can say contract's quality policy. We will discuss later on also, because it has no limits. When we start talking of contract, red or we can say silver, we have to discuss at length from point of view of consultant, because there is no work where consultant is not involved. Everywhere consultant is involved, and that is due to payment to consultant by employer. Contractor's work is to be supervised by contractor itself, as well as it is supervised by supervising team. Contractor cannot leave anything to be taken care of by supervisors. First requirement is that contracting team, family members may watch but cannot interfere. So we have to get into quality policy that actually applies to contractors, but in fact that becomes a kind of indirect responsibility of engineer. This point many engineering students do not understand, and they say no problem. So what I'm saying is, when you come for further discussion, this point should be clearly defined, explained, and if some error is revealed that requires close outlook, close study, then we can say it's objective. Then we say conduct is quality policy. That is the responsibility of engineer to investigate, to comprehend, apprehend, and if context doesn't suit, if context is not suitable for that quality which is required, then there is no sense in waiting some session. We have to understand these points very well. This quality policy, project site plan, safety policy, safety plan, quality plan. Yes, these are very durable requirements. These are very long requirements, and all these should be based on standards or whatever standards we can do. Standardize something, and we have to act. You can say organizational targets, then commitment policy. Likewise, we have to analyze this. Every document should be analyzed. I would like to say that. Continue this one later on also, but here on जो कंस्ट्रक्शन के काम को सुपरवाइज करने के लिए होता है, वो सिस्टम जो भी एक्टिविटी है उसको सुपरवाइज करना है, करना पड़ता है। नहीं तो बात विश्वास की नहीं है, बात प्रोफेशन की है। ये कह देना जी हम कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पे विश्वास करते हैं, विश्वास तो आप करिए, हमें किसी को कोई इसमें प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। लेकिन इंजीनियरिंग में विश्वास इतना नहीं चलता है एक हद तक, लेकिन जहाँ तक कन्फर्मेशन की बात है वो भी ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि ना तो मैं अपने लिए काम कर रहा हूँ, ना आप अपने लिए कर रहे हैं, हम किसी और के लिए काम कर रहे हैं। और किसी और का मतलब यहाँ खाली एम्प्लॉयर ही नहीं है, क्योंकि एम्प्लॉयर ने भी वो चीज़, वो प्रोडक्ट, वो कंस्ट्रक्शन मटेरियल, कंस्ट्रक्शन प्रोडक्ट आगे कर देना है। और फिर वही सब कुछ एक साथ तो नहीं हो सकता, सब कुछ एक तरह से भी नहीं हो सकता। इसीलिए जिस तरह से हम कॉन्ट्रैक्टर की जिम्मेदारी को फिक्स करना चाहते हैं, उसी तरह से कंसल्टेंट की जिम्मेदारी को भी, उत्तरदायी को भी फिक्स करना चाहिए। वो बेशक इंडिकेटिव हो, रिफ्लेक्टिव हो, नॉन डॉक्यूमेंट्री हो, यू हैव टू टेक केयर ऑफ दैट। समझने में टाइम लगता है, अंडरस्टैंड करने में टाइम लगता है, और एक बार प्रोसीजर जो बन गया, आपको प्रोसीजर चेंज करने होंगे बार बार, और ये काम होता है, चलता है। इसीलिए सिस्टम बनाना पड़ता है, सिस्टम समझना पड़ता है, समझाना पड़ता है, डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन करना पड़ता है, फॉर्मेट में लाना पड़ता है, तभी आगे चलता है। मेहनत करनी पड़ती है, वो चाहे रेड बुक हो, सिल्वर बुक हो, वाइट बुक हो या येलो बुक हो। सुपरविजन एक शब्द है, लेकिन इसका मतलब बहुत बड़ा है। जिस तरह से कंस्ट्रक्शन एक शब्द है, उसका भी मतलब बहुत बड़ा है। बड़ा इसलिए कि प्रोजेक्ट्स बहुत बड़े होते हैं और इन चीज़ों के मतलब और भी बढ़ जाते हैं। कुछ लोग सोचते हैं कि हम सुपरविजन का काम लेंगे तो काम आसान होगा, टाइम कम देना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि जब काम होगा तो हम चेक करेंगे। लेकिन वो ये भूल जाते हैं कि चेक क्या करेंगे जब तक आपको पता नहीं है क्या चेक करेंगे। It is very easy to say that supervision is simple, it's not complicated, but I don't accept that. Because supervision means you have to know complete construction. If you do not know construction, to my mind set, you don't have knowledge of construction as well as you have no knowledge of what happens during construction, what is the relation between contractor and consultant, and then what is the relation between employer and consultant, and shall this line be drawn in a way that a equilateral triangle may form. Therefore, I should rather say that supervision is more significant because we have to help, we have to help, we have to control, we have to amend, we have to change so many requirements during supervision. You have to go through each and every submission of contractor. We have to make sure whatever system we form that it should work. We cannot blame someone else because that system was not perfect, we could not follow it. There is no perfection required because it's our own system and it can be amended from time to time, and somewhere disagreed with contractor by suggestions or by reactions. We can ask for give your reaction, how best we are or how best we can change for achieving our targets on this project. It's really interesting to understand this. If you understand this, it works. If you don't understand this, it doesn't work. In fact, we have to change mindset that contractor is a thief or a robber. That mindset should not work. Or others think that supervising engineer don't worry, they don't care. Or likewise, you can say, in other words, people can easily comment that there is corruption. But I don't agree with either. For me, as a partner or as a responsibility partner, you can say, even my job is small, responsibility is at same level, cannot be changed. In engineering, continuous change is required. In engineering construction or engineering supervision, we don't fix ourselves or times on dressings or in achievement, but on payment. It depends. Depend of what? Payment of your services and then payment to test. This was what I say We have to continually understand, as I said, field engineering. In field engineering, all this happens: construction, supervision, designs, and more and more. Designs and supervisions are related because more than supervising team, knowledge of design is not available to us. And these teams are also not final or end. When you really want to apply, we usually say, I have done my job, I have to wait for someone to come and get us. Who would say that? When we talk of designs and construction, you can say we talk of totality of project. Totality of project in a way that what we have to do. Good consultants already give some book type pages that you use. We will purchase with purpose. Our purpose is different. Our purpose in future. Our purpose is present. But our purpose is not right. We have to consider more and more significantly communication and coordination that plays very important part in world of AnnexSL, and that is yellow contracting. As we say that organization requires communication and coordination, which is very continuous task and for everyone. Failure in communication and failure in coordination means errors, mistakes. And those must be avoided, and those could be avoided only when we take care of something one way or other way. Communication, as I said, is very important part on whatever contract we have. And we expect that engineering team, or you can say this Dominion team, was excellent in performance. It's really very useful if we can apply communication in a constructive way. Construction means not construction of buildings but construction of documents. We can do ourselves and then only to some extent. Coordination, again I say, it's not only contracting problem, it's consulting problem also. Consultant has to first be sure about what details are given. Construction as well so much. Why? In fact, you have to keep control on construction, and that can be done directly by supervising team. It's in fact their responsibility to supervise and superintendent to control and to help contractors. Because if they can't help, who can help? That is conclusive point. We have to help our team members, working team members, I mean to say not contractual team members. When we have to seek help, we should seek help. If you don't take it, if you don't value, it can be different. There are documents as we discussed before. These documents are these are documents help and coordinate in help, and also help in coordination, like progress report, or you can say various communications to contractor for whatever purpose, and that also you can say technical and engineering related complaints, both should preserve. This do not make anything automatic, but it pulls attention of people. It informs others what is required, what's not required. And you know, it's an intellectual world where generally people know that much, if that is permitted, is allowed. When we talk of these documents, we talk of collective responsibility. For example, when we say daily progress report, it's not a report for contractor alone. It's report for engineers as well as employer. And same way all these documents, whatever titles are given, memorandums to contractor, technical clarification, engineering clarification, request for inspection for all items, and various other requirements, you can see for yourself all this, and this shall be discussed later on also. Then there are supporting references for activities, as we discussed before too, but we have now to discuss from perspective of supervising team, works of engineers, is how input experience by engineer can help some project. That is very basics you have to understand. Because both items are related to both parties, both practical parties, not existing scope parties. If we do not care for these items, we cannot do anything. That's also true, because these are very important activities. If supervising team is careless like contracting team, you see there's no difference. We cannot work. Supervisor team must be very smart, must be, accountable, accountable to work. No delay tactics can be accepted by such team. Rather, it should be very forceful to push another party. And there is girl, that is father-in-law's daughter, equivalent. That situation doesn't exist. It doesn't exist, and communication and coordinations try to fail. We should not be. In such explanation would take time from engineering point of view. We have to really realize these facts. What is our organization? That's not only in red book but also in white book. And how we can collaborate with each other, because there is only two party on a contract and non-contract. Where two parties are unknown to each other by contract but known to each other by working system. Therefore, we have to, you can say, we have to comprehend, apprehend from very beginning that our efforts on contract, our time wasted on because a calculator is in somewhere. So we shall take up this clearly, very different mode, which is our duty. This document then goes to leadership. Leadership in both leader of construction and leader of provision. Both leaders have to cooperate, have to combine, and they should, and they are required to work in a consistent team with no difference, because these leaders have to lead project towards destiny. These leaders are very responsible element of project and society. There's always some false. Leadership and commitment are related. Policy is decided. What are roles, what are responsibilities, and what are authorities are defined. Leadership of both must be matured, pragmatic, and to think of all positive activities and to thresh out negative thoughts, because better attachment and for the better tackling power. Ahoy, simple. We can come to a point where you can say emphasis on leadership is very important, because leaders, every leader has its own vision, has its own policy, and that works. If leader can do that, I think there's nothing better than that. Both leaders, here you may say engineer or resident engineer, and here project controller or project depth, which did not exist that time. And I think that should be organized well. These topics are as such, we cannot complete in one minute or 2 minutes. We have to give proper references, and only then we can say we do our job to take it to certain positive conclusion that something can be achieved or a failure results in. And I don't think that due to leadership there can be a failure. Failure can be credited or debited, but responsibility cannot be unnecessarily debited or credited. Projects are always very important, and these cannot be taken for granted. This must be considered properly, in a proper way. That is, we say, अगर हमने प्रोजेक्ट लिया है तो करना तो पड़ेगा, उसको छोड़ा नहीं जा सकता. अपना खुशी, अपना टाइम छोड़ा जा सकता है एंजॉय करने का, पार्टियों में जाना छोड़ा जा सकता है, और काम जो हम करते हैं उनको छोड़ा जा सकता है, लेकिन जो हमारा प्रोफेशनल वर्क है, जिसको हम स्वीकार कर चुके हैं, उसको नहीं छोड़ा जा सकता. कमिटमेंट तो कमिटमेंट है, वादा तो वादा है. कहते हैं वादा किया है तो निभाना पड़ेगा. यहाँ तो हमने साइन किया है, एग्री किया है, इनिशिएटिव लेकर, अपना टाइम देकर, खर्च के पैसा खर्चा करके भी उसको अगर ना निभाएं तो हम में और एक ऐसे व्यक्ति में जो कुछ नहीं करना चाहता, कुछ भी नहीं रह जाता अंतर. इसीलिए इस बात को अच्छी तरह से समझना तो पड़ेगा ही, उसको हम मना भी नहीं कर सकते. ये बातें मैं रिलैक्स मूड में कर रहा हूँ, क्योंकि ये एक अजीब सा काम है जो हाफा दाफी में नहीं हो सकता. पहले तो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के काम, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के डिज़ाइंस, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट से फिलॉसफी, लाइन ऑफ एक्शन एंड देन लाइन ऑफ रिएक्शन, विच एक्सपेक्टेड। सब कुछ देखने के बाद कुछ प्राप्त करने की कोशिश की जाती है, और लास्ट स्टेज जिसमें सबको अंदर होना पड़ता है काम के इफेक्ट को, और जिसको हम कहते हैं कैरिंग आउट जॉब। प्रोसिक्यूशन भी कहते हैं, कैरिंग आउट जॉब भी कहते हैं, और कहीं कंडक्ट भी कहते हैं। कुछ भी कहें, प्रश्न तो वही है कि आप कर पाए, और कर पाए ठीक है, अच्छी बात है, और नहीं कर पाए तो फिर फर्दर क्वेश्चन, किस वजह से नहीं कर पाए। मैं समझता हूँ इन सब कुछ चीज़ से बचने के लिए, इन सब आफतों से जो आपके ऊपर बाद में आए, एलिगेशंस लगे कंपनियों के थ्रू, या पब्लिक वैसे ही आपको जान ले, फिर आपका सेवाधिकार खत्म हो जाता है। थोड़ा सा पेशेंस रख के आगे बढ़ना पड़ता है। एक बार अपनी गति की तरफ जाएं, स्पीड की तरफ जाएं, और उस पर कंट्रोल कर लें, तो शायद फिर बड़ी तेज़ी से आगे बढ़ सकते हैं। उसके लिए सुपरवाइज़र को भी और कॉन्ट्रैक्टर को भी समझना होगा कि हमें करना क्या है। यद्यपि सब लिखा है कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में, लेकिन आजकल लोग पढ़ना कहाँ चाहते हैं। वही बात आ जाती है, जिम्मेदारी जब होती है, उत्तरदायी तब होता है, और जब उसको अपने ही ढंग से करें तो वही उत्तरदायी खराब हो जाता है। चाहे आप कितना भी जानते हो, जब तक आप काम नहीं कराएंगे आपको सही बात समझ नहीं आएगी। और ऐसा होता है बहुत बार, आदमी समझ ही नहीं पाता है कि इंजीनियरिंग में करना क्या है, और वो उनकी फोर्स उनको ही तंग कर देती है किसी भी नाम में। इसीलिए हमारा पहला अटेम्प्ट यही रहता है कि हम बात को अच्छी तरह से समझें, हम विवरण को जानें। हमारे कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, चाहे वो सुपरवाइजिंग कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो या वो कंस्ट्रक्शन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो, दोनों के प्रतिनिधि इस बात को समझें कि हमारा काम क्या है, हमारा रोल क्या है, और हमको किस तरह से इस प्रोजेक्ट को जो हम कर रहे हैं अच्छी क्वालिटी में कैसे दें। जब तक ऐसा कल्चर सोचने का नहीं विकसित होगा, ये झूठ फरेब का काम, लाइस का काम, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को ख़राब करने का काम, डिस्प्यूट्स का काम कभी बंद नहीं होगा, और ये एक दिन तो आपको करना ही पड़ेगा। नहीं करोगे तो सब कुछ ख़राब होता है। डिस्प्यूट्स होते हैं, और वो डिस्प्यूट्स भी बहुत एक्सपेंसिव होते हैं, सिंपल नहीं होते हैं। ये बात भी अच्छी तरह से समझ आनी चाहिए। कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कहना बहुत आसान, वही बात वो किसी भी तरह का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो, जब कंस्ट्रक्शन इन्वॉल्व होती है, बड़े बड़े प्रोजेक्ट सामने होते हैं, तो बातों से तो काम नहीं चलता। ये करना चाहिए तो क्यों करना चाहिए, और ये नहीं करना चाहिए तो क्यों नहीं करना चाहिए, इन दोनों के जवाब, क्वेश्चन आंसर आपके सामने होने चाहिए, नहीं तो प्रॉब्लम तो आएगी ही, क्वालिटी प्राप्त नहीं होगी, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में सीक्वेंस नहीं बन पाएंगे, कौन सा काम पहले करना है कौन सा बाद में करना है वो बनाना बहुत ज़रूरी है। और जब तक उसको नहीं बनाएंगे तब तक हम सही काम नहीं कर पाएंगे। ऐसा मेरा नहीं, सबका सोचना होता है, लेकिन जब काम करने का समय आता है तो क्या क्या कांड होते हैं आप जानते हैं। इसीलिए आहिस्ता आहिस्ता मैं समझाने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि सुपरविज़न में बहुत मेहनत करनी पड़ती है। आपको एक जगह नहीं बैठना पड़ता है, बल्कि जिस तरह से घूमना पड़ता है काम पर, उसी तरह से दिमाग को घुमाना पड़ता है कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के कंटेंट्स को। इसलिए एनेक्स एसएल हो, वाइट बुक हो या जो भी हो, ये तो रेफरेंसेस हैं। असली वाइट बुक तो आपके माइंड में है, असली टेबल भी आपके माइंड में है, क्योंकि टेबल से ज़्यादा अच्छा है अनुभव से काम करो। अनुभव कैन से detailed experience, varied experience, or you can say lessons learned through experiment, learns through experience, and those those lessons are for now free of cost, for now whatever available for us. Communication or commercial कम्युनिकेशन कोऑर्डिनेशन जब आप इससे चाहिए हमने सोचा था कि फटाफट चलेंगे आगे, जल्दी जल्दी बता देंगे कि कॉन्टैक्ट किया है, जैसे हमें एग्ज़ाम देना था। लेकिन जब देखा कि लोग खुशी से इसको नहीं लेते हैं एग्ज़ाम, और मैंने पहले भी कहा काम एक तपस्या है। कॉन्ट्रैक्ट डॉक्यूमेंट्स को पढ़ना भी आसान नहीं है। उनको वही पढ़ सकता है जो काम कराता है। आप किसी और को दे दीजिए, वो नहीं कर पाएगा, समझ नहीं पाएगा ये क्या है। इसलिए कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को संभालना भी एक रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है। वैसे आप कहते रहिए हमने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट सही काम किया, लेकिन एक्सपीरियंस आदमी आपको कहेगा या अगर हम नहीं गया। कहने को लॉजिस्टिक्स होती हैं, कहने को रेफरेंसेस होते हैं। हम अपने प्रोफाइल में कंपनी की बड़ी बड़े फ़ोटो लगा देते हैं। इन सब के बाद भी जब जब भी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट से आपको सामना पड़ेगा, समय की पाबंदी होगी, टाइम लिमिट होगा, आपके पास कोई रास्ता नहीं होगा, लेकिन आप कॉन्ट्रैक्ट तो मान लेंगे। सवाल था तब में क्या किया, कोशिश क्या किया आपने अपने को संभालने की, काम को संभालने की, डिस्प्यूट्स को कम से कम होने देने की या ना होने देने की, क्या कंसेशन दी आपने किसी बात को बनाने की, ये चीज़ें समझते हैं. You have to get to that point. We have to reach to that point of no dispute. And to reach that point, we have to be all time aware. We have to be aware of all activities on a daily basis and longer discussions during monthly meetings. That should be for every point of view. हम तो बात कॉन्ट्रैक्ट की कर ही रहे हैं. कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है, डिज़ाइंस हैं कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में, दूसरे सुपरविज़न की कंडीशंस हैं कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में, और कैसे काम करेंगे वो भी कंसिडर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में. एक ही बार में आपके पास कितने पॉइंट्स, कितने रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज. इसीलिए इस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को खेल नहीं समझना चाहिए. इंजीनियरिंग की बाहर आ गए लेकिन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को समझा नहीं, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को करा नहीं. इंजीनियरिंग में क्या सिखाएंगे वो, खुद ही कहते हैं हम नहीं जानते. वो ऐसे हैं. जब भी हमारी लाइफ में ऐसा समय आए कि हमें सुपरविज़न में जाना है या ठेकेदारी में, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में जाना है, तो मैं समझता हूँ क्या चाहेंगे आप, अपनी ऑप्शन लिखिए. डू यू लाइक पेनफुल, हेवन, जब कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पे नुकसान हो जाए या फ़ायदा हो जाए, ना खुश होना चाहिए ना दुख होना चाहिए. क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं तो एरर है ना, तभी तो कुछ नुकसान हो रहा है. कहीं ना कहीं तो वो जगह शायद अच्छी नहीं होगी, पड़े हुए हैं. बच नहीं सकते अपनी जिम्मेदारी से, इसलिए बचने की सोचनी भी नहीं चाहिए. वी हैव टू टेक रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी that must be taken, that cannot be left, and it should be covered in every respect. We cannot run away without that. And that's where it works. कई बार थोड़ा कहना बहुत होता है और कई बार बहुत कहना भी थोड़ा होता है. बहुत सारी एक्टिविटी होती हैं, स्ट्रक्चर्स होते हैं, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में होता है सब कुछ. सही हो सब कुछ बहुत आवश्यक है करना. और ये कहना जी कॉन्ट्रैक्टर ही गलत है, हम सही हैं, मैं इस बात को सही नहीं मानता. कॉन्ट्रैक्टर कोई दुश्मन नहीं है किसी का भी. उसी तरह से सुपरवाइजिंग टीम भी कोई दुश्मन नहीं है कॉन्ट्रैक्टर की, और दोनों भी एम्प्लॉयर के दुश्मन नहीं हैं. कोई भी किसी का दुश्मन नहीं है. बस समझने की बात है. अगर आप प्रोजेक्ट ओरिएंटेड होंगे, गोल ओरिएंटेड होंगे, तो जितना हो सकेगा सही करेंगे, और सही ओरिएंट नहीं रखेंगे अपने आप को ओरिएंटेशन, तो फिर तो प्रॉब्लम आएगी ही। ये बातें बहुत ज़रूरी हैं समझनी कि हम कहाँ और कैसे आगे चलते हैं। नहीं तो गिरेंगे तो सही, कोई नहीं रोकेगा, कोई क्यों रोकेगा, ये बात भी ज़रूरी है। We have to contemplate on basic thinking, what we have to do, how we have to do about, and how should we keep ourselves clear and potent. Sometimes somebody smiles, it doesn't mean that person is not serious, and somebody keeps face as if very serious, unpleasing, and it doesn't mean that that person is serious. It's a state of mind, it's a state of your understanding, it's a state of confidence that sometimes many misfortunes come and persons are not affected. So we have to consider same way that everything is a challenge, every work is a challenge, and we have to take it from that viewpoint. Ignorance cannot work and it should not work. Same way it is. So we have to be very careful about this issue, and with this we'll continue next time. And I think we have to take care of all this extremely well. शायद मैं बोर हो रहा हूँ या कर रहा हूँ, आपको ऐसा लगता होगा। इतने सारे मैंने वीडियो क्यों बना दिए, ऐसा भी लगता होगा, कौन देखे कौन सा देखे। भाई देखो, ये आपका काम है, ज़िंदगी बीती है इंजीनियरिंग में और आपकी भी बीतेगी। अगर इंजीनियरिंग में रहना है तो ये सब करना पड़ेगा, या फिर इंजीनियरिंग छोड़ देनी पड़ेगी आपको। ज़बरदस्ती इंजीनियर नहीं बन सकता कोई भी। इंजीनियर बनने के लिए तो आपको मेहनत करनी होती है। यह टाइटल की बात नहीं है, बात रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी की है, बात अपॉर्चुनिटी की है, इंक्लिनेशन की है, और बात सिर्फ ये है कि हमको तो बस पैसा कमाना है। तो मेरे पास उसका कोई उत्तर नहीं है। विश्व पैसे पे चलता है, ठीक है, लेकिन यूनिवर्स पैसे पे नहीं चलता है। फर्क। आप पैसे से यूनिवर्स नहीं खरीद सकते, हाँ सामान खरीद सकते हैं। इसलिए इस बात को समझना भी आवश्यक है। और अब मैं जब कुछ बातें हिंदी में करता हूँ, इसलिए कि सबको सब समझ आ जाए, अच्छी तरह से समझ आ जाए, और हम ये बातें कंटिन्यू रखेंगे आगे। आज थोड़ी शॉर्टकट करते हैं। कुछ तो लोग सो रहे हैं, कुछ ज़्यादा इंटरेस्ट नहीं लेंगे, फिर भी हम तो अपना काम कर रहे हैं, करते रहेंगे अगर सब सही रहा तो। इसी के साथ आपका शुक्रिया, धन्यवाद। मिलेंगे फिर आपसे।